All right, traders, we got a request in our weekly. Somebody dropped by our chat and they presented themselves as the developer of this particular project and asked me to take a look at it. And so, as we are a podcast for the people here at CryptoTalkRadio.net, we always are happy to do a swag look on projects. And I did give the caveat, I'm going to be honest, because that's how I work. I'm a straight shooter in the world of sensitivity. So I will do the cover to the project. The project that I'm going to be covering, Lottogroup, is what I found by doing a search, cryptolottogroup.io. It's on the Binance Smart Chain. I do encourage you to check it out yourself, make your own determination about what you think about it. I'm simply going to share from my perspective and everything I saw on the site. Let me just preface here. I don't want to be perceived as completely trashing or banging on this project. However, there will be parts of this where it's going to sound like I'm trashing or banging on the project. This is not because I'm trying to be a jerk. It's because there are some fundamental things I see that are problematic. However, there are simple things to fix, I think, and I'm bringing it to attention because it sounded like the person that stopped by was genuinely interested in my thoughts. The user was Crypto Fitness and Gaming was their name on YouTube, on our weekly, on the chat. And I'm taking a look at the site. I've got the site up here now. I'm actually going to expand it because one of the concerns popped up on me and I want to talk about it. So I wanted it to be in view. So I dug into the site, and before I get any deeper and tell you about what it's about, this little business down the bottom, website uses cookies. Use cookies to analyze traffic. This is normal. You see it on other sites. It ties to, it's actually part of kind of the GDPR requirements. It's also tied to California requirements. And, I have the right to be forgotten and all these regulations that came out for disclosing how cookies are used and if they're going to be used in a way that might violate somebody's privacy. My problem with this is not that they're doing that. My problem with this is they provide no opt-out. It is a forced acceptance of same. Now, of course, I use like 3 different tools that block those. My feedback number 1, if it's within this developer's control, I strongly recommend you simply use opt-out measures, not try to force them to accept those cookies if they're not mandatory to make the site work. The reason I say that is that when you force it, you might turn off certain people that are tech savvy like myself, who already know how that information is to be used and possibly sold, and spam ensuing forthcoming. So as a recommendation, I suggest you figure out, if you can, if you have control, a way to get it to where you can opt out of that cookie provision. And there are services out there that you can reuse them. So basically, if somebody had been browsing the web and they've already opted out and you use that same service, it'll remember that same browser already opted out. So they don't have to do anything. You're just verifying that, yeah, you're good to go. Small recommendation. With that said, I'm not going to click accept. I'm just going to do my best to explain the premise behind this. Now, this is based on the surface level view. The swag is not a deep dive. It's a surface level view of what I see. It's all it is. That's all it ever will be. That rhymes. The premise behind this, and again, Binance Smart Chain, the premise behind this, as I understand it, was basically they're taking the investments from people who hold the token, and someone's going out and they're buying lottery tickets. They're aggregating the lottery tickets to increase, basically getting as many as they can to increase the chances of somebody winning. And then they distribute the winnings amongst all existing holders, given certain conditions and terms. This was somewhat intriguing because nobody's ever done it before. I would also say it's a little bit concerning because it might, and I didn't dig deep, but it might run afoul of certain state law in the United States with respect to lottery. California stands out in my mind. Nevada stands out in my mind. There's likely others. What happens is that the lotto has very rigid, firm guidelines about how to do this. Now, I know the perception might be, it's just like a lotto pool. In fact, there's a guy, I think it's like Ken Lotto or something, on Twitter. It's like a lotto pool. You're just a bunch of people at the office and you all chip in on a ticket. I understand what you're saying. What kind of throws a wrench in it is the internet. Let me explain. For whatever reason, in the United States, we have turned anything where it's an internet transaction into a high-risk thing by default. And they label these when there's anything that goes wrong or anything they don't like, they bulk it under wire fraud. I'm not saying anything is wrong. I'm saying that it might be heavily scrutinized if somebody's a state that has these rigid rules against them. So I would recommend being careful and doing a lot of research into the regulatory considerations around what you're doing. Because again, I understand the thought. I'm saying that being on the internet changes the game. It shouldn't, but I know it does. And it might put you, developer, as well as the holders at risk, possibly. Not guaranteeing anything. I'm saying possibly. Assuming that there's no such problem. And I don't know that there is or isn't. The second part is it assumes a level of trust. You have to get into the token, you have to hold the token, and you're trusting that this person who's holding the lottery tickets has your best interests at heart, and they're going to actually distribute, not only distribute the money, distribute all of it, right? Because let's say you win billions of dollars, but yet they distribute 500 million. Well, you got something, but how do you know that you got the full jackpot, the full win out? We don't know. It's trust. You have to trust the person. So if you trust the person, it's probably fine. I'll get to why some people might not here momentarily. There's a tax structure they recently announced on Twitter. The tax has changed to 5% buy, 5% sells and this supports liquidity, supports the lotto ticket taxes. So there are taxes for lotto playing that they have to pay. So seeing that they actually thought about that, at least, is somewhat encouraging. Okay, and then there's a marketing. I'll get to that here momentarily. And then they break down the pool jackpot that they've got here. Winning ticket prizes from $1 to $500 will be added to the lotto funding pool. Total winning ticket value from $501 and above, proportionally redistributed to the weekly Lottogroup holders, including anyone who purchased during the week and holders who hold 2.5 billion tokens. 2.5 billion tokens is not asking a lot. I'll get to that in a second. Roadmap intrigued me ever slightly because we've got Q2, right? So Q2 is self-launch. And I confirmed this DEX tool listing. That's confirmed. There's a press release, YouTube ads, Facebook ads, telescam. Q3, promotion partnerships. Right now we're in Q4. So what this says is there was supposed to be a promotion. So this is basically Shillers with YouTubers, CoinMarketCap listing. I didn't see that, but it might be there. I'm not saying it's not. I didn't see it. I didn't dig. Website redesign. I didn't see the older version of the site. So I don't know if that actually did or didn't go because I didn't know about the project. And then Q4. So we're in Q4, and they plan to do a centralized exchange listing. It doesn't say which centralized exchange, so I can't say which one it would be. Since it's Binance Smart Chain, I'm assuming it's got to be probably LBank, maybe, Coin Tiger, maybe Bitmart. I doubt it, maybe, but maybe Hotbit, right? One of those smaller-ish ones that are a little bit more tolerant. But I didn't see any movement towards centralized exchange. It might be. I didn't see it, is my point. Usually I would know that from CoinMarketCap, by the way. And then early next year, they talk about a CERDIC audit. They want to renounce the contract, which is one of my points I'll get to later, and then join a staking platform, which I'll talk about later. Then they give simplified instructions. And of course, this is better than Cult DAO by far, where they clearly tell you in regular layman's speak, here's what you need to do. Here's the problem. MetaMask, which has been in the news, telling people that MetaMask will gladly violate your privacy all they care to. So I do not advocate MetaMask as a go-to wallet for anybody ever, never will. I would say download a cryptocurrency wallet and tell the user to do a search for cryptocurrency wallets in whichever store and then have them choose which wallet is best based on their own research. Because if you promote one, see, here's the risk. If you promote one, anyone, and that one happens to screw the person, you're kind of putting yourself out because it could be something where you're held accountable because you steered them that way. So if MetaMask does a thing and you steered them that way, you might, quote unquote, might have some liability. I would stay away from definitely promoting MetaMask, but certainly I wouldn't tell them to go to a specific wallet if you can avoid it. You can suggest, and I would give a list of 3 or 4 of them. Trust Wallet's one, fine. Coinbase Wallet's one, fine. It's BNB, so Coinbase Wallet might have some issues. It would work. It's just probably some problems. Trust Wallet's fine. Alpha Wallet's fine. There's a list of other ones that you can talk about that I think would be better suited for your customer base. Everything else I'm fine with. That was just that one thing. They have what they refer to as the luck paper, which is their version of the white paper. It is a PDF. I verified it as a PDF. You can download the PDF and view the PDF. So here's the PDF. And it reads more like a marketing deal, not necessarily a white paper. So it just talks about, what's the point of getting one ticket and burning money on one ticket when we can invest in tickets for you? And then you get distribution just for being a holder. Talks about Powerball and Mega Millions. These are in the United States. Talks about how we get the stamps and everything else. Talks about how the distributions happen. Tells about the rules behind it. No problem. Tax structure. No problem other than, again, it reads more like a marketing thing, not really a white paper. There's frequently asked questions. I'll talk about this here in a second. I want to break down in case the developer's listening. I covered way back yonder on the podcast at cryptotalkradio.net the rubric I like to see for a white paper. And it involves who, what, where, when, how, and why. Who? Who's behind the project? Who's doing the development work? Who's marketing it? Who's the throat to choke if something goes wrong? What? Tell me what it is. Why should I care? But what is it? What is it that we're doing here? Where? Where is this? Like, are you in Australia? Are you in New Guinea? Are you in Japan? Singapore? Where? When? Dates. So I talked about the Q1, Q3, right? That's great. Dates help. That's good. How? How do you plan to do this? You talk about the structure at a high level. A little bit more detail would be nice to kind of understand how this can work, especially the distribution parts and how you would expect to avoid the risks that I talked about. Why? What's the motivation behind why this project even became a thing? Why did this make sense to spin up now? Why is it on the Binance Smart Chain, right? What you're doing is you're setting the stage and you're connecting with your investor to help them understand why they should care about your project. If your white paper doesn't contain all the rubric, you're not telling them what they need to know in order to make an informed decision, in my opinion. And then the disclaimer, I'm perfectly fine with the disclaimer. And there's an irony about this because the disclaimer is beautiful. Basically, it says it's informational purposes. It's not financial advice. It says entertainment. You can make an argument case, whatever. Investing is risky. That's true. Don't invest more than you can afford to lose. That's true. Sole responsibility for the risk. That's true. Before you make a decision, we don't promise a gain. That's true. We can't guarantee a positive. That's true. Like, all of this is accurate and true. So Crypto Fitness and Gaming, the developer that presented this on the chat, we were talking about the initial white paper for Terraria, where they straight said, this is not an investment. And I said, bull. Yes, it is an investment. No, you can't say that. You can't tell US people that it's not an investment. An investment simply is, I give you something, usually money, with an expectation of return. At the generic level, that is an investment. And so we were talking about that. So I'm happy to see that their white paper understands. You acknowledge this is an investment because you know it is, right? And the people expect a return, but you can't guarantee it. That's actually correct. So I'll give the white paper about a C. I give it a C because it doesn't follow the rubric. It's visually nice. It's a white paper. And it answers things at a basic level, but that's really all it does. I think more could be done on the white paper to take it to the next level and appeal to people like myself that are actually readers. Here's the frequently asked questions. This is just like they're inside the document. Disclaimers just like they're inside the document. So the site is very bare bones. It's very simple. There's not much to it. Really, you just buy the tokens and that's about it. Here's flag number 2, I'll say, because I don't consider the white paper stuff a flag at all. Again, it's about a C. It doesn't really impress me. More could be done. But flags, I'm talking flags now. Flag number 2, it appears that their preference is telescam. Anybody's heard me said, I don't prefer ones that they strongly encourage telescam or force telescam. I believe you need to have more of an outside the bubble presence. I believe you need to have, I see a Twitter, but it's kind of, oh yeah, by the way, Twitter's here, do. I want it prominent. I want to see prominently. There's Twitter, there's, Facebook, there's Instagram, there's Reddit, there's Discord, there's maybe Medium. I want to see you have a diversity of coverage across and that you're actively going after people in those different forums so that people understand we're here. We are a real thing and we're here. If you stay stuck in telescam, you'll never be able to get past that glass ceiling from my angle, my perspective. So then I took the contract address because it was here and ran it through my favorite tool and hopefully yours too, MarketMove. MarketMove.ai. MarketMove.ai gave me some interesting information. First of all, I had looked at the contract code myself. Contract code looks pretty decent. MarketMove confirms this. MarketMove didn't have hardly any issues really with the contract. I'll get to a couple things they called out that I saw as well. But the contract looked decent good. Financials looked decent good. Concern they had was holder. I'll get to that in a second. MarketMove didn't have an issue with liquidity. I did, and I'll get to that in a second. So what really hurt them is holders, which I'll get to here momentarily. If they were to resolve that, which I'll talk about here in a moment, they would have one of the best scores in MarketMove, arguably. So now I'm skeptical. I'm like, okay, there's got to be something here. So I ran Honeypot. No, it's not a Honeypot. It's pretty dang clean. Okay, I ran Seifu, as in Stay Seifu, not the car salesman. Seifu sees is pretty dang decent, but it said, well, the ownership's not renounced, which I confirmed, but it gave it a pretty dang high score. And I had gone and done analysis of the code itself. And I saw, okay, that's basically what it is. There's not much to this. You know, the code's pretty dang involved, but I'm saying overall, there's not much to it in concerns or what I would consider strong risks or any of that kind of stuff. It seemed like a straight up, this is what it is, this is what we do type token. Holders is where it bit them because here, Bot Planet, whatever that is, holds roughly 50% of the supply. There's roughly 210 billion tokens. There's 32 holders total, but this one holds roughly half the supply, which is probably what MarketMove was resonating with, and I saw the same thing. So what the hell's going on here? Well, I went to Dex Tools, and Dex Tools showed me the graph. Here's where they went live, way back here in May, early May. And now, if you look at the actual behavior, this is volume. When you see it like going these weird square type deals, that's volume. That's volume. Basically, it says there's low volume. It's not that there's anything specifically wrong with it. It's that the volume is way low. If you look up at the numbers, there's only one transaction, one buy for $50-something in a long time. So we don't have a lot of holders. And liquidity is only just over $8,000 for the 32 some odd holders. Okay, that's kind of a concern. And there's only 16 BNB in the pool. So that means potentially unhealthy. Market cap is just over 30,000. So there's fundamental concern with money because of low volume. It's not because there's anything wrong with the code. There just simply isn't any volume. This goes back to what I said about those that just stay with Telescam and maybe one other. It's harder for them to stand out in the crowd. Now, if you look here, okay, I see Twitter, I see Telescam, I see TikTok, okay? Well, where's the rest of it? Where's your Facebooks of the world? Where's all the other ones? You have to aggressively go out. Now, because it's tied to the lotto, I don't know what risk there is in proactively going out and trying to find people. Because I don't know, again, if something comes down on them because it's tied to the lotto. That goes back to what I said. I don't know. So there could be that risk. I'm saying that for any project that really is trying to grow, you can't just stay with Telescam and expect it to keep you going. You got to be all over every platform that you can find, ideally even LinkedIn, which goes to the point about who in the rubric. There's no hint of who the people are in the project anywhere on the site. Now, that might have been intentional. I don't know. But the point is, I believe that you should have, again, faces, names, put yourself out there because that adds credibility to the project. The liquidity is not locked. So that's one of the concerns that was raised in the soft audit. I think that's something that you should consider doing, even if you only use Everlock from the Everown ecosystem so that it's temporarily locked and you have access to unlock it when you need to for whatever operating expenses. Same with Renounce. I would actually not recommend that you renounce it fully, but perhaps you consider Everown from the Everrise ecosystem to where it's temporarily locked just to show good faith to your investors. Now you can tell the story. Yes, that's true, but we have Everown for instead of Renounce so that we have access when we need, but it's community controlled. So now it's truly community powered. We have Everlock for the liquidity, so we can't just draw the money whenever we feel like it. Almost cussed right there. We have to actually check with the community. You give us approval, we'll unlock it, do what we need to do, we'll talk it out. You are part of our decision factor. I know some developers don't like that because it feels like you're losing control. What you're really doing is you're increasing confidence in your project, because a lot of the investors want to see this. They want to see that they have a say in whatever's going to happen because it's their investment. They feel like they should. The last part I'll call out. So when you decide, right, to get into this business, there's a link on one of these that spins you over here to CoinTool. CoinTool has transactions on the blockchain scanner where it looks like that this crypto lotto group had done a donation through CoinTool. So it got me intrigued, and I was trying to figure out what's the connection here, because I had used CoinTool like ages ago and I don't use it since, but I'm aware of it at a high level. But then I noticed, okay, Zen Batch Minter, aka Zen Crypto, and it is truly Zen Crypto's deal, and it's a completely different interface than the other two that I showed. It is what it is, but it's like, geez, man, come on, can't you get one experience? Anyway, the thing is, CoinTool offers audit capabilities. It's part of the service. So now I'm curious, okay, is there a reason? As far as I can tell, this is not audited. So is there a reason that we couldn't use one of these audit tools that we already are playing in or have access to? Is there a reason why we couldn't use one of them so that you actually have an audit on books and da-da-da? I don't know. I'm asking the question just as an open thing, because if you're already exposed to CoinTool, it's something that they offer. I'm pretty sure they still offer it. So there's ways that you can at least get something initial. It might not be the greatest audit, right? I looked at the code. I didn't see anything that was overtly concerning from what I could tell. It looked pretty decent code, but at the same time, maybe there is something. It came back and said, okay, it's similar to another contract. So I went and said similar and said, okay, I couldn't find anything. So it's either similar to a contract or it's not. I don't know what that meant, but I then went and looked at the code and didn't see any concerns necessarily. Pretty straightforward. It does have a function mint, function burn. So because it's not renounced, there is that risk. However, they're not public functions. So it doesn't have the same garbage that's happening over on ShadowFi. But the owner, because it's not renounced, there is that risk there. So that's my summary thoughts on this. I believe, again, the structure of the code is fine. I think the main things harming it right now is lack of volume, which I correlate to a lack of awareness, which I correlate to a lack of social media presence. I'm talking broad, like a lot of them. And then because it's not renounced, there's that. Because the liquidity is not locked, there's that. So there's a lot of things that aren't there that I think could be. I also think it's not going to appeal to international shores. Number one, because they may not understand how the lottery works and or how it can benefit them. And number two, it's like layers of gambling, right? Because the crypto market itself is going to be fluctuating up and down. Then you got the lottery situation. So there's constant sell pressure because you have to use the money to get the tickets. So that may hurt the chart as well. Ultimately, there's going to be constant sell pressure because of the nature of what it is. There's that playing in a factor. I think the biggest thing is going to be the renounce, liquidity lock, lack of awareness, certainly, rubric, who, what, where, when, how, and why on the white paper, not having enough information on the site. Again, not enough presence in what I see on social media across, and then understanding and education of certain, outside the United States, they're not going to understand. I don't think they're going to understand this and the value to them. Sounds good for somebody in the United States, but then they're not going to really know about it if you're just stuck in Telescan. United States people don't go to Telescan. So hopefully that helps in thought process. CryptoLottogroup.io. If you want to check it out on the Binance Smart Chain, I do hope that you do. Check it out for your own reasons and purposes and intents.